Hello there. I'm the laziest writer, and recently I played through Inside. I knew I wanted to make a short video even just a few minutes into the title, but after reaching the end of the game, well, who knows how long this video could be. I suppose you do, presumably, but as I'm recording this, I have absolutely no idea. So let's beware major spoilers and jump right into some random thoughts on Inside. So the first thing that you notice as you start playing Inside is just how simple it is. The controls are extremely limited, and there's no real tutorial or any heads-up display or anything to point you to where you need to go, as it's simply a case of moving to the right and staying out of sight. For me, this straightforwardness served to enhance the primal fear that the player character is facing, as it reduces our options and means that, just like the little boy, we have no choice but to run. Actually, I just looked it up and it turns out his name is just the Protagonist. Related, perhaps. Anyway, as soon as the game begins, you're plunged into the danger, knowing through your fluency in video game languages, or perhaps simply through trial and error, that you need to do whatever you can to avoid being caught by the patrolling guards and their terrifying hounds. And you know this despite the eerie silence that is only permeated by the occasional sound to remind you that the world is so silent, if that makes any sense. What I mean is, a dog barks or a gun fires and you're struck by just how quiet everything else is. The boy, the forest, and, perhaps most unsettling of all, the men chasing you, who say and shout nothing as they silently hunt you down with dogged determination. You might eventually get used to the fact that there's no dialogue in this twisted and corrupted world, but the complete silence of everyone here, and that juxtaposition between the normally peaceful nature of silence and the intensity of the chase, really creeped me out in the first hour or so. And that's part of what's so brilliant about the opening in particular. Nothing is communicated except through the terror that Inside is surprisingly effective at injecting into its players, and therefore each of its ideas and the experience of the game are directly applied to the player without having to worry that they might become sidetracked or distracted by some other element of the experience. There are no other elements, just the desperation and fear of a little boy yearning to escape the horrors of the world that he finds himself in. And the fact that he's a little boy contributes so much to the fear that is inherent within Inside. Way back in my very first video, I discussed how Little Nightmares 2 uses the fact that its heroes are children in a terrifying and monstrous world, an adult's world that hunts those children at every opportunity, to exact a horrific dread upon the player. I'm just summarising because I already spoke about this, but I'm also still bothering to summarise because I don't recommend that anyone watches my old videos. They are not good. Anyway, in Inside there's another element to this, which is that the protagonist seems to be the only child left. I mean, I don't know the origins of these little things, but I'm not quite sure that they count either way. As such, the boy stands as the only symbol of innocence in this bizarre, dystopian, Atomic Heart-esque setting. He sees the world for what it is, and we're desperate for this impressively expressive little character to make his way to some kind of freedom from the eternal pursuit and endless monsters and nightmarish ventures into the questions of bodily autonomy that he seems to encounter every minute or two. If anything, this only helps to enhance the way that we learn the game and its mechanics and dynamics. Most players don't want to see a small child being mauled by an attack dog, so you're immediately clamouring to escape from the moment that every threat is introduced. Of course, you would be anyway, but the emotional attachment that the game seeks to establish only emphasises the player's desperation, and, in those instances where a little trial and error is necessary, mortifies them with visceral images of death that only drive them to a further anxiety over the safety of the protagonist. One of the game's greatest strengths is the creativity that it offers us in terms of our means of progression. We run and we jump and we hide, but we also engage in some frankly horrific mind control, collect armies of brainwashed followers, smash through walls with submarine machines, and blend in by pretending to be one of the mindless zombies marching through the industrial wasteland. To name just a few of the deviations from the norm that sprung to mind in the 20 seconds that it took to type all of that out. This variety causes us to think outside the box and means that almost the entire game feels like it's offering something new, rather than overstaying its welcome as we become accustomed to the title, which might happen if its ideas are more limited. In tandem with the wide range of disturbing environments and enemies, this means that players are constantly getting something new out of the game, which therefore maintains their interest and staves off the boredom from the very start until the rolling of the end credits. If I have one complaint to make about Inside, it's that for a game with such a dark and overwhelming atmosphere, it has a few moments with these really sudden shifts in tone that can be jarring to the player and their experience. Even the horrific zombie pigs are rescued by slowly pulling a worm out of their bum, and there's a bit where you shoot a bunch of little chicks at a hay bale to knock it loose, which is a bit bizarre following the vivid animations of the player character, again, a little boy, having his throat torn out by a pack of hungry hounds. This thematic whiplash can somewhat take away from the relentless oppressive atmosphere of the game, and possibly contributed to the fact that once it was over, and I was simply left to stare upon the death of everything that I'd fought for, I wasn't heartbroken or entirely wordless, as I have been with other games and films that were similarly hopeless. I was sad, and I thought, that was a great game, but the impact wasn't nearly as strong as it could have been, and I feel that those moments of tonal inconsistency were a key contributor to that fact. Nonetheless, I still did think that was a great game, so it's not like this spoiled the experience, and I still very much recommend that anyone who hasn't given it a go gets out of here right now and plays their way through Inside. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you had anything to say about the game, or maybe my mad ramblings, please do leave a comment as I'd love to hear your thoughts. So thanks once again, and if you choose to stick around, I will see you next time.